Southern California counties assessing the damage after the region's strongest earthquake in 20 years. There have been more than 100 aftershocks throughout the area. Now scientists are warning about the possibility of an even bigger quake. CBS News correspondent Carter Evans reports from Ridgecrest, California, near the epicenter.
The 6.4 magnitude quake in Ridgecrest sent items flying off the shelves at local businesses, and broken bottles littered the floor of this liquor store.
Everything that was on the shelves came crashing down. The wine, all I heard was just, and it just fell.
Home security cameras caught the shaking that also caused roads to crack. This house went up in flames.
We have multiple injuries. We've had 2 house fires. We've had small vegetation fires, power lines down, gas leaks.
The local hospital was partially damaged, so 15 patients were evacuated as a precaution. Some had to be airlifted to other hospitals.
Wait, what's going on?
Are you serious?
First earthquake.
Tremors were felt even more than 100 miles away at our Los Angeles station, KCBS, and dozens of aftershocks were felt in the region. I was on camera this morning when a strong one came through.
Roll, someone roll, 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 roll.
Back in Ridgecrest, Mayor Peggy Breeden says they're concerned about more potential damage.
You've declared a state of emergency. What does that do for the city?
It allows us to seek services from all the entities, both state and federal, that can help us with the cleanup.
This was one of the largest quakes to hit Southern California since the 1994 Northridge earthquake. That trembler had a magnitude of 6.7 and left 72 people dead and up to $20 billion in damage. Caltech seismologist Lucy Jones says the area should expect aftershocks to continue for some time.
There is about a 1 in 20 chance that this location will be having an even bigger earthquake within the next few days.
The mayor says they're going to be sending crews out today to assess the damage around town. What they're looking for are infrastructure problems. We're talking about broken water pipes, cracks in the roads, broken gas mains, that sort of thing. All of this while the aftershocks continue. Carter Evans, CBS News, Ridgecrest, California.
Dr. Susan Huff joins us now by phone from Pasadena, California. She's a seismologist at the United States Geological Service. So, Dr. Huff, can you just put into perspective for us, for folks who aren't familiar with earthquakes, how powerful really is a 6.4 magnitude quake?
6.4 is a powerful earthquake, as evidenced by the fact that people felt it all the way to Ventura and well into Los Angeles County. It's not that uncommon for California, but they don't happen every day, obviously, or even every year.
As we saw in that package, Carter Evans experiencing an aftershock right there on television. There's more than 100 aftershocks that have been reported since yesterday. How long after an earthquake can these keep occurring?
Well, the network has actually recorded over 1,000 aftershocks. Wow. At this point. Most of them are way too small to be felt, but the largest was a magnitude 5.4. It's in keeping with expectations for a magnitude 6.4 main shock. The number's going to die down pretty fast, but it's going to continue for months, if not years, to come for an earthquake this size. They'll just get fewer and fewer in number.
Wow, interesting to hear you say months, if not years. How deep was this earthquake, and does the depth really matter?
Yeah, it can matter a lot. It was around 10 kilometers, so just around 6 miles, which is fairly typical for California compared to other parts of the world where you can have very deep earthquakes. They're generally more shallow here.
And as you know, everyone is concerned about when the big one could potentially hit. I know this is a question journalists ask you over and over again. What's your sense? Is there anything you can read into that?
No, we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. It could be tomorrow. It could be 50 years from now. Anytime you have earthquake activity, it raises slightly the odds of something bigger. But as you heard Lucy Jones say, it's on the order of 1 in 20 chance. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't merit a dire warning about larger future earthquakes, but it is a time for people to be on their toes and remember that any day is fair game for an earthquake in California.
You say any day is fair game. We know experts say that there's still a potential risk that an even bigger one, the 6.4 that they experienced, could happen as early as next week. What do we know about that?
Well, any attempt to put a time frame on it is not supported. We can't say that. We put out probabilities, so there's about a 1 in 20 chance of something bigger within the next week. So that's not a big chance. 19 times out of 20, nothing will happen with an earthquake like this that's bigger.
Okay.
But it's possible.
How sophisticated, how accurate are earthquake forecasts? And do scientists, can they predict? How is the prediction value on these?
Well, in terms of telling you that an earthquake is going to strike next Tuesday at 4 o'clock, we can't do that at all.
Why is that? We can predict
prediction.
hurricanes, but we can't quite predict earthquakes.
We can see hurricanes coming, and we can't see what's going on deep in the earth, but it's not clear, like an avalanche, it's not clear that there's really any buildup to an earthquake. They may just happen without anything that we can see. So people have been looking for a long time and never have seen what we call a precursor that reliably says, hey, heads up, earthquakes are on the way.
You are an expert in this field. You've watched this for decades. What's your big concern in the coming months?
Oh, boy. Fortunately, this sequence was in a fairly remote area. It did impact people locally in Ridgecrest and Trona and other places, so we don't want to make light of that. But it obviously was a very different setting from the 1994 Northridge earthquake, for example, which was in an urban area. So the big concern is that this is the biggest earthquake we've had in 20 years. People start to kind of forget what a big earthquake is like. We have 4s and 5s that are pretty manageable. So people may be forgetting to have bottled water on hand and all the stuff they know they should do, but maybe haven't. And sooner or later, it's been a quiet century in California in terms of big earthquakes on the San Andreas, really since 1906. And that's going to end sooner or later, and that's going to be a different ball game than anyone alive today has seen before.
Dr. Susan Huff, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
But first here, breaking overnight, Southern California braces for more aftershocks after another powerful earthquake rocks the area. The magnitude 7.1 quake was felt from Los Angeles all the way to Nevada. The latest earthquake happened just after 8 p.m. local time, caused ceiling lights to sway at this casino in California about 90 miles east of Los Angeles. The quake also caused injuries, sparked fires, and closed roadways. And this roller coaster on the Las Vegas Strip could be seen swaying from the shockwaves as passengers on board made their way to the top of a 180-foot. Imagine being on that as the earthquake is going on.
Yeah, the quake was centered in the Mojave Desert near the town of Ridgecrest, which is still recovering from a 6.4 quake on the 4th of July. Carter Evans begins our coverage in Ridgecrest. Carter, I know you've been there since the very beginning. What are you feeling and what are you seeing right now?
Well, we've been feeling a lot of shaking and we're seeing a lot of damage. This is what it looks like in the East Ridge Market. The violent quake littered the aisles. Take a look on the other side over here. You can see all these wine bottles strewn all over the floor. It's scenes like this that are playing out throughout the region.
A lot of wine came down. You could see it's all broken bottles. And we could just keep going all over the store.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Convenience store owner Tony Abdul-Latif had just finished cleaning up from the last quake when his store in Ridgecrest was thrown into chaos yet again by a violent earthquake. His security video stops when the power went out.
I would say it's like 3-4 times lost than yesterday. So
that much more.
That much more.
We definitely have an earthquake going on.
The quake struck at 8:19 last night. It rattled Dodger Stadium while the home team took on the San Diego Padres.
This is a very strong earthquake.
Our colleagues at KCBS were caught off guard once again by the shaking, only this time they were live on the air. Last night, 7.1 magnitude earthquake could be felt across the state.
The car moved very strong, like that. In my house, everything.
I've been here for 28 years, and this is the worst.
From Northern California to the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas, where an NBA Summer League game was postponed. Officials in California are reporting injuries, some structural damage, and road closures as a result of the quake.
Ridgecrest is having a pretty difficult time tonight.
Seismologist Lucy Jones says there have been more than 1,000 smaller quakes since a 6.4 magnitude earthquake rattled the same region on Independence Day. That shaker is now considered a foreshock to the much larger quake last night, now the largest to shake the region in 2 decades.
Well, so far, there are no reports of serious injuries or deaths. The governor has declared a state of emergency, and search and rescue teams, they're going through the city. They're looking for anyone who might have been injured or trapped. The damage assessments are going to be pouring in throughout the day. And you know what? We're also going to be feeling those aftershocks. The seismologists say there is a very good chance we could feel aftershocks in the range of a magnitude 5 or even a magnitude 6. And they say there is a 1 in 20 chance that we'll have a bigger earthquake than the one we had last night. Dana?
All right, Carter, thank you so much. People there obviously bracing themselves for more. It really is amazing when you think about it. Everybody thought that 6.4 was the big one in this, and now it turns out that was the foreshock.
That was the foreshock, right? And again, as Carter mentions, there is a chance here. Probabilities change depending on who you talk to a little bit, but 10 to 20% chance or 5 to 10% chance of another earthquake being bigger than the 7.1.
Right. And if you're in Ridgecrest, you don't care what the chances are. You just want to break right now at this point.
It does so much damage in such a short amount of time.
And as they say, long term, the chances of the big one happening are 100%. So